So, ladies and gentlemen, let's just give a round of applause to the keynote speaker of the day, who is Cathy Mputhia. Welcome.
Well, good morning, everybody. First of all, I wish to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you made time to come. I'm really honored and humbled at the same time. I think all are familiar faces, but I want to recognize ATS family, Susan, Rosemary, and your friends, who we have journeyed, as you've heard, for so many years. And they say I'm an ex-official member of the family. So welcome. I also want to recognize the other family, Milao family. Thank you so much. Koigis and all protocols observed, Windsor and the team. I want to recognize engineer and everybody here, the IFC team. If I've not mentioned you, please feel welcome. So I also want to thank God. I think, as has been said, the passion and the commitment to work with family businesses, I think I've seen God's hand in what we have been doing. And for us, it's a pleasure to be able to impact positively. And I think that's what really matters. We pray a lot for family businesses, by the way, so it's very nice to see the impact. I won't say much more about myself. I think we'll go straight into the report because of time. So basically, and again with all humility, we've worked for family businesses for very long. I've not mentioned that I'm also a part of a family business I'm in the same WhatsApp with Susan and Sifa. But the good thing is we started this journey a long time ago, and I've had a lot of mentorship from my dad, to be very honest. And we look at things collaboratively. So for the last 15 years, we have been working together. I have also worked in another law firm. I didn't leave law school and start a law firm. I worked under a very senior advocate who also coached me and mentored me. So it's good to recognize those who have mentored me and those who have shown me the way. So Lemon gave you the story of how we began. So that couple, I felt really bad. So I didn't know them, but I just decided, let me buy you lunch. Let me hear you out. And as they vented, I realized the issue was the business. It wasn't many things. And we were able to work together to come up with an arrangement where the family businesses will not be affected in as much as they're fighting over other things. And it's so nice to see the businesses are still standing. So on to the report. So this is a family business digest, and I'm just going to take you through an extract, because it is volumes and volumes, pages and pages. So what you did is, there have been many stories in the media, many rumors about this family business, this is happening to this, the kids are not talking, all those stories about family businesses. And when I listened to some of the cases, we said, let us do a fact-finding mission. Let's go on a fact-finding mission to find out, first, are those rumors true? Number two, to look up what is the court saying about these cases which have been filed by family businesses. And so, what I'm about to present to you is it's a digest. Yeah. So this is a quote by a learned judge, and this is what this judge thinks about family business disputes. Okay. So this is a ruling that a judge in Kenya made about a dispute of a family business that was brought to her. And this is very important because I think it sets the tone or the mindset of the judges. What are the judges thinking about this family business disputes? And what the judge said, and I'll just paraphrase, who in the world, this is actually a ruling, This was the first sentence. Who in the world will advise the family commonly known, referred to as G, to sit down and agree to have a consensus on how their family business will be run for the benefit of shareholders? The learned advocates, from a point of view, are not helping the matter, but rather it seems that they are fueling the disputes. It is disheartening. And this is our paraphrasing. But in that ruling, the judge has poured her lament about these family businesses that are in court. And she has, you could read the spirit or the soul of the judge. And she was very, very heartbroken about this family. And she was asking who is going to help them. That was a cry in her heart. So we started with that powerful statement by a judge. I can write her name because it's in public domain. Lady Justice Many, a very respectable judge in commercial court. So this tells you what even the judiciary feels about family-owned businesses. I don't think anybody is happy when they see family businesses fighting. And we can also say that the courts themselves, they wish that family businesses be managed by consensus rather than courtroom battles. And we have also had the opportunity of looking at other judgments in other regions of the world. And one of the judgments coming from a US court, the judge noticed when the trial was going on, the judge noticed that the younger brother was belittling the older brother in court. And the younger brother was saying that the older brother has mental issues, that kind of thing. And the judge read it in the judgment. But we have noticed the kind of attitude you have. So this judicial plea represents the cry of countless family businesses caught in destructive cycles of litigation. Okay? Litigation was only when girls go to court. So in litigation, of course, there's a lot of legal fees, relationships are broken, but I think the most painful part of litigation is that the business itself hangs by a thread, and then the relationship is broken. Once you go to court, it becomes very difficult to see eye to eye after that. So our role or our task, we went to those same courts to see what are the courts saying about the cases which have been brought. I will not repeat the statistics. My colleague already said that. But what is interesting is that 80% of Kenyan businesses are family owned. 80%. Thank you. 80%, which means family businesses contribute very significantly to the GDP of this country. So if a family business fails, it is not only the family members who suffer, the employees also suffer. The people who gain from the business also suffer. The economy itself also suffers. So with that in mind, we do have a passion for participating or contributing to preservation of family businesses. And we will do anything that we can in our power, as God wills, to be able to support family businesses to that end. And global statistics are very shocking, is that 85% family-owned businesses globally contribute to 85% of direct or indirect employment. So there's every interest to preserve them. Now to our report. Before we go there. So I just want to quickly go through the background of understanding a family business. It's not a master class, but there are different experts in the room. My board fund engineer, the team from IFC, Martin, and so on. So I know, and the experts can attest, we all have different ways of approaching family-owned businesses. It's true. So when they sit with this expert will advise like this. When we sit with another expert, they will have another way. And we discovered that none of those ways are wrong. They are all correct. It depends on the philosophy or the mindset of the expert. And for us, our approach is always like this. For us, of course, being legal, we normally don't push our views down the throats of family businesses. We want to work with their objectives. And because the objectives of the family business can fall under any one of these theories. And you need to be flexible to be able to support. So you find a family business whose objective is probably to preserve legacy. For them, they don't care about Bill Gates is coming with $2 billion or whatever. They say, keep your money within this thing to remain in the family. And that's okay, because that is their objective. For another business, they'll say, we entered into business to make money. So if these guys bring in the money, let's sell and move on to other things, which is also okay. And for some, probably they think about livelihood. What would my children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren eat? All these schools of thought are okay. Others, like I think there's a beauty, Meleke or something. Others are national entrepreneurs. They say that we fund this business with a purpose. Therefore, we are not diluting the vision. Whether an investor comes or whatever, this is the vision. So all those are okay, and I'll quickly mention in 1 minute. The systems theory is a theory that looks at a family business as 3 circles. So because a family business is not like any other business, at least we know that. And what makes it different are these dynamics. So the system theory looks at the 3 circle, and they look at a business that you must understand the family. You must understand the business, and you must understand ownership. So that is one school of thought. The second school of thought is the stewardship theory, where they say that the people working in the family business are trustees for the next generation. So they're not there to make money, but they're there to preserve for the next generation, which is also okay. I'll just focus on the major ones. Agency theory states that a family has other stakeholders who are not necessarily family members. You have employees, you have suppliers, you have all these guys. And so they also argue that family business governance should also consider those other stakeholders. The one that I love the most is social economical theory. And that one says that family businesses are different from ordinary businesses because for family businesses, there's both financial and non-financial wealth. So you're making profits, but you also want your identity to be known. You want to preserve legacy, and there's a social aspect of it. So what makes a family business different according to them is a social economical theory, and finally the continuity theory that focuses on legacy. So that sounded like a masterclass, but the reason that we put it there is to understand that your own family business, first your own, it's very key to get your objectives, if it's legacy, if it's wherever, and there can be multiple objectives so that you can know the approach to take, even in the documentation. So we mentioned that we went to the courts, and this is an extract of a publication called Mputhia Family Business Case Law Digest. And I don't know if there's another digest like that in Kenya. I don't want to say it's the first or whatever. I think that would be presumptive. But this is very specific to family business. So it has adopted a fact-based. It's factual. And one of the challenges when you're doing research on family businesses in Kenya, there's not a lot of fact-based research. So it's fact-based, something like Coming-Juris analytical, and I'll come to that, and diagnostic. So basically, we looked at 76 court cases, right? Court cases are in the public domain. You can access any ruling, any judgment from the website. So we analyze these cases in depth, and in analyzing these cases, we were looking for the facts of the case. What is it that the parties were fighting about, or what was the issue in contention in that case? And after looking at the facts of the case, we looked at what are the issues, the relevant issues before the court. Then we looked at what we call the court's reasoning. I don't want to say those Latin words, but whenever judgment is written, the judge has to write his reasoning in the judgment. So we were very, very interested to know what was the judge thinking, because they put their thoughts on paper. And then finally, the ruling. So what we are going to present to you, that is the format that we took. Now, to give us assurance, we know that family businesses are very confidential in nature and very private in nature. So we were very sensitive to that. In as much as the information is public domain, we have not mentioned any family business by name because we respect the privacy. What we have done is we have coded. So we have given each case a code so that the identities remain private. Our objectives of the case, why did we do this? So I've already said we want to read the mind of the judge or the mind of the judges about family businesses. Judges, where there's no law, like in Kenya, we don't have a Family Business Act. In the UAE, we have a Family Business Act. So where there's no law, the court decisions by judges also form part of the legal environment. So we want to understand what are the judges saying about these disputes. Then we also want to demystify the causes of the disputes in the family business. You'll hear people saying they're fighting over this and that, but all that is rumors. What is the truth about the causes, and how do we demystify? Now, when we're demystifying the causes, we also did analytical to find out the trends of what are the causes. And then we also compared the cases in Kenya with other countries. But the most important thing for us is what can we learn from those cases, and what best practices can we adopt to avoid some of these challenges, or to emulate. Like in our fact finding, we found some family businesses have very good structures that can be emulated. So this is the overview. Yes, so we analyzed the family business cases in court, and we were able to come up with a finding on the percentages in terms of the nature of the disputes. So after analyzing the nature of the disputes, we also did now categorization of the majority disputes. So that chart that Jess is projecting, it gives like the findings. I hope you can see, but very briefly, employment and labor matters took the biggest pie. So as family businesses, you need to think about where are we fighting with our employees, because out of the disputes in court, at some point we even had to stop. We said we've gotten enough. We don't need to say anymore. But it's a message that family businesses are really fighting with their employees. And my colleagues at the back will get into the details of the category. Now, another percentage that was interesting was governance and shareholding, ownership disputes, governance disputes, corporate governance and shareholding. It took 25%. So 25% of the cases analyzed were governance related, shareholding related, ownership related. Employment was 34%. Okay. Then matrimonial, these colors almost look the same. So I'll just do it from memory. Matrimonial took about 10% of the causes of the family business disputes, which means that couples are getting into business, but when they're going through a shakeup, it affects the family business. And we want to see some of the facts that are there. Then we have property disputes, which took about 4% was property, succession, and tax. So out of the cases we analyzed, 4% were from succession, 4% from tax, 4% from property. And I think, I tend to think that the reason that it's at 4% is probably because of an indexing issue at the court level, right? So I believe there are more than this, but while we were researching, this was the finding. The miscellaneous took about almost 10%, and then we have intellectual property, interesting, which took about also 4%. So in knowing the cases, how the cases were divided and categorized, this was the finding. In our bigger report, we're going to give you each case, the facts, the issues, the whatever, all that. But again, we're going to code because of respect for the identity of the family businesses. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to present two categories, actually three. Then my colleagues will each do one, and that will form a summary of our report. So, our first category, which we found that was 10%, was matrimonial disputes. Matrimonial disputes contribute to family business failure or breakdown. And as you can see, we're okay, thank you. So matrimonial is at 10%. We managed to analyze a number of cases, including a high-profile case from the US, and I'm sure you know this couple. They have entertained you on your screens. Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie. Anyone? Of course, we all know. Has anyone watched Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Netflix? So now they have the real Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So these are actors, celebrities in the US, but they also have, we've also analyzed their case. So going into the facts, okay, so I'll just quickly take you through the facts of that particular case. So Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, I can name them because they're not in this room. So they got married in a very fancy wedding, and they decided to open a business called one of those French names, Mouvrel something, and what they were doing, they were producing wine, rosé wine. They were very passionate about their couple project. They did their wedding at that estate, but now when they started having problems in their marriage and it got to divorce, that estate became the center of the fight. Both Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie wanted that estate, and that estate became a point of contention. It became a point of vengeance and things like that. So the case is still in court till now, and so basically, the wife decided to sell out her share to a third party and leave the business. But the husband went to court and said, "Who told you you can sell without my permission? Who told you can sell without consent?" And so the legal issue that they're facing is a shareholding issue. It's a governance issue because the issue is about shareholder rights, right? It's about shareholder rights. You could be a spouse, but we have governance documents. And when the case is still ongoing, the court was of the view, and the court's mind, when it comes to family, couple-owned businesses, they look at your governance documents. They don't look at the marital things. They look at the governance documents. So a second case, I've wrote for Jesse to project the second presentation, but let's bring it back to Kenya. So in Kenya, marriage, of course, is regulated under the marriage laws. And when there's a divorce or things like that, there are two major fights that happen after divorce. One is custody. Who's getting the kids? And that sometimes is a very bitter fight. But the second fight that happens is property. Who owns what? Okay. And in Kenya, matrimonial property or property owned by couples is also regulated under a different act called the Matrimonial Property Act. So that's very critical that matrimonial property is governed by the Matrimonial Property Act. Then we have a beautiful constitution where Article 45 says that parties to a marriage are equal. Husband, wife, equal. You have equal rights. So why I'm bringing out the Matrimonial Property Act is because in that act, family businesses have been mentioned. And this is what I want to present to you. So when they're doing a matrimonial property division, the court is guided by something called contribution. So let's say about this building. This building, it's husband and wife. The court will look at contributions. There's a principle called contribution. So basically, how much did the husband contribute? How much did the wife contribute into buying the business, right? Now, previous cases, okay, so we may find that one spouse contributed actual money to buy a direct, what they call a direct contribution. The other one, it's not clear how much they contributed. Maybe they've been bringing up the kids and all that, yeah? So what they call indirect contribution. And working in a family business, the court has consistently said that that is indirect contribution. And I'm coming to that shortly. So now people are fighting over the property, and the court is looking at contribution, direct or indirect, okay? So in the past, the court has normally given 50-50 in the past. But there was a recent court decision, as we were working on this report, a Supreme Court decision that said Article 45 of the Constitution doesn't necessarily mean that couples have 50-50. It just talks about their rights. Without that doesn't automatically mean the contribution. So for family businesses, what we need to do is to quantify. When it's a case of indirect contribution, you need to quantify that. Remember that in awarding matrimonial property rights, the court also looks at indirect contribution. Indirect contribution equals working in the business. So for family-owned businesses, couple-owned businesses, or even businesses where you bring your next generation into the business. Remember also the next generation could be also married. So matrimonial issues play a role in family businesses. And for us, the findings is that the court considers both direct and indirect. Working in the family business counts as indirect contribution, even without capital. There's a case we looked at where it's the husband who started the business. Because the husband was working, the wife was at home. So the husband started the business with his money, with everything. Then the wife was told, you go and work in the business. So the wife worked in the business for all these years. When time came to separate the property, the court found that she was entitled, just as entitled as a husband, because her contribution was by working in the family business. So the second principle is that being married does not automatically entitle you to 50%. So that means for family businesses, sweat equity, this is not from the court, that sweat equity is recognized when it comes to division of matrimonial property, right? That's a finding even from Supreme Court, though they don't call it sweat equity. They call it indirect contribution. So our recommendation to you is to have ways and systems of quantifying that sweat capital. Because sweat capital, unlike capital contribution, is very hard to quantify. Because it's easy to show I gave 5 million into the business. But it's very hard to quantify. I used to come 3 times a week. I used to do this. That's a very hard thing to quantify. But for family-owned businesses to shield themselves from risk is to come up with a system of quantification of sweat capital. And as you think of sweat equity quantification, there are other things that come into play. For example, you have been earning. In as much as you've been working in the business, you've also been earning from the business. So it's about keeping proper records of the cash and non-cash earnings, so that when it comes to that end of divorce, you're able to, the fight is not prolonged. There are records to show, and there's a system of quantification of sweat capital. And finally, what is very, very clear from the court and from all the decisions we've looked at, even in other countries, when a family business goes to court, a couple-run family business goes to court, the court looks at commercial law. The court looks at the company law. It doesn't look at marriage law. It looks at the company law and governance law. And so most family businesses are under Companies Act. And in the Companies Act, Section 30, the court says whatever you guys have agreed as your governance is what we shall uphold. So why is that important? It's important to prevent future disputes during divorce by having the right governance documents at the very beginning. Good thing, our courts allow you to draft whatever governance document at will. So some of the things are like capital contribution clause. You could put even the sweat equity clause in that document, the formula of calculating that. Things like how do you come out of the business? How do you exit the business? You could put a clause like, by the way, if we start divorcing, I can buy you out. That preserves the business in the long run. How do we introduce a new shareholder into the business? So the finding from court is that the court will uphold what you as a couple have agreed as your governance. And as I round up that part, what we can learn is that it's important to separate business assets from family assets, because the business is a separate entity from the family. So you don't want those two to be merged. And what we advise family businesses to do is to come up with a policy, because many times the assets you have as a family were bought from the business, right? Single, like the vehicles you own or whatever you own, they're bought by the business. So it's very important to separate the two categories, and policies can guide that. For example, if you're buying a house from the family business, is that house owned by the family business? Is it owned by you? This kind of dynamics. And what kind of documentation should be put in place when you're transferring those assets? On the other side, the families that take loans of their family assets to finance the business. And then when the business crumbles, auctioneers come for your house. So how do you separate the two? And that is through policy. Don't structure family employment. You need to create policies for family members working in the business, especially couples. So job descriptions, very important, because that JD will go into assessing indirect contribution. So what was your job description? What was your performance? Because it's one thing to work in the business, it's another to perform. So what are your performance targets and all that? And also, the court, there's some benefits you get as an employee. You can get a benefit of non-cash dividends, cash dividends. So keeping all those. So when somebody says, I'm taking 50% of your business, is it true? We have the evidence here to show, to rebut that position. Or we have evidence to show that you should even be taking 60%. What about the house that we bought you with or the car? So your entitlement is not even 50%, but less than that. So that's our recommendation. And of course, dispute resolution for couples, we advise you to put that in the governance documents. Why it's key is because if someone goes to court, your lawyer will go and object to that court case. And so we agreed that our disputes would be managed like this. We agreed to go to arbitration. And then, I think that is just the first bit. I'm presenting a second bit, and I think if you need a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, please, it's an interactive session. We'll talk Q&A after our discussion, but Jessie, please project the code. As we go through the session, there's a code that you can write your questions. You can key in any questions or comments. And if you have your phone or your laptop, just type in Mentimeter. I want to take us through the second biggest cause. Yes, so just as we take a break, if you have a question, please go to thatmentimeter.com. Then there's a code. There's a code number there which you can read out, 468-955-47. And once you have that code, you just join. Once you join, just type in your questions. At the end of this, we are going to see all the questions. You can have a question, a comment, kindly use that. Okay, so the second category of cases that I will present to you is governance disputes, and I know our time is going, so I'll try and be brief. So governance and ownership fund 25% of our analyzed cases. This has to do with the fights that you see about ownership and shareholder and so on. So these cases exposed the balance between family and business. So I want to take us through 3 cases very briefly, give you just the facts. The first case is a Kenyan case, which we have not named and we shall not name. But it's a Kenyan case, very big family-owned business, and they got into a fight about shareholding. So what happened, the founder founded this business many years ago, and he invited all his family members and told his family members, the children, come and join me, we start this business. So he said, come and join me and we start this business together. And he told them, you'll each contribute something to the business. And so one of the kids decided, I'm not going to be part of this. I'm not interested. And the founder said, fine, let's continue the business with these others. So they had their meeting, several meetings, and they did their capital contributions. Now, the son who had been left out, I think parents have that parent heart, because I think the founder decided, okay, we're not part of this. Let me open for you a similar business somewhere else. It's going to be your own business. And the founder also get him a house and all that. And so the founder unfortunately passed on. And the founder, remember this business is owned by the founder and the other children. So there's that shareholding of the founder, which people still had to decide who is going to get this share. In as much as we have our shares, who is going to get the founder's share? Very wise founder. He left a will on who is going to get the shares. Guess what? The son was not part of that will. So what he did is he redistributed the shareholding to the other children. So of course the son is like, how can you leave me out? I am a child, all those things. So he went to court. And he was like, and the court he went to was succession, to contest the will. And to say, no, I am a child, I am entitled to get a share in this business. Guess what? The court said no. The court refused. The court upheld the will of the founder. And the reason that it upheld the will is because it found that first, the will was valid. Number 2, the court said, you were opened for a similar business. You were gifted. You can't say that it's unfair, right? And the court, interestingly, quoted the parable of talents. And in the parable of talents, the court said, these other guys have worked hard on the business. The court was like, you are all given equal opportunity. They worked hard, You did not, because you are also open for a similar business. And so the court took the approach of this is a company matter. It's not a family matter. This dispute of this family business is not a family matter. It's a company matter. And we're going to apply company law strictly. And the issue was, are you a shareholder? No. So, no case. And the case was thrown out. And that was interesting, is that this older sibling had gone to court to stop shares from being sold to an investor. And the court said, no, you're not an owner, in as much as you're a family member. We are going to go strictly by CR12. And that is a lesson for us, as we shall see. Now, the other cases that we came across were cases from, there's a case here. This one, the cases from abroad are very interesting. So there's a case of two brothers, Theodore and Robert. Because they're abroad, I'll mention them. So these are sons of a founder. Each held 50% in their father's business. And these are two sons. So one son joined the business immediately after high school. So I don't even know if he went to school and everything. Immediately after high school, sure, family business. The other one went to the Harvard school, and finished his education, then joined. So this Harvard guy transferred 1% to his wife. See where his shares, 50%. He decides, I'll give you my wife 1%. I'll stay at 49%. 1%, the other guy, 50%. And so they even set up trusts for, because it's a third generation now. They even set up trusts for their family, for their grandchildren. And there's a management company that put their salaries. And so the management company. So they're both working in the business, they're shareholders, but salaries, whatnot, are being paid by a management company. And so these guys had agreed on how to manage the business financially in terms of now the finances. And they had finance policies. But one of the brothers, I think this is the one he did go to school clearly, began to mismanage the business financially. Okay? And the business dipped. It went down. So Robert wanted to exit the business, so he had to sell his share. And he undersold because the value of the share was brought down by mismanagement. So this guy is very allayed. He went to court. And when we went to court, the case that he brought before the court was something that we call breach of fiduciary duty. Basically, he said, you're a director with me. You had a responsibility to me to manage this business with sound management principles and so on. And the court agreed with him. The court totally agreed that Flodo owed Robert a fiduciary duty in as much as they are brothers. So the lesson to family businesses is that professional management of family businesses, in as much as your siblings, in as much as your maybe father, son, whatever it is, professional management is critical. And you owe each other that duty. You know the way some people say, whatever, like you don't even give information. There are those who run the business like, it's my business, But the court disagrees. The court says that you owe each other fiduciary duty. And I can see the experts there. They know what fiduciary duty is. You have a duty to run the business professionally. You have a duty to, keep accounts, keep records. You have a duty when somebody asks for information, you must give it to them because you owe fiduciary duty. And a lot of family-owned businesses are actually sort of destroyed when people don't understand the fiduciary issues. Now, the last cases that we're going to look at. So the first case, the ruling is not a shareholder, no rights. The second one is fiduciary duty. Now, this last category is a very common occurrence in family-owned businesses, what we call oppressive conduct. And this is what takes a lot of people to court. So in one of the cases, I'll just give one because they're many. So in one of the cases, this founder, it's an American guy. He has 2 kids, okay? Boys. Then he decides, okay, the first one is not married. You'll become the minority shareholder. She's shocked. But that's what the founder said. And so the younger one was given majority, almost 3 times the shares of the younger one. What's more, this founder said, unless you marry a Jewish lady, all respect to the Jews and all that. This is not about, the political situation. It's a fact. So the founder said, unless you marry a Jew, first of all, you're the minor shareholder. But number 2, unless you marry a Jewish lady, you cannot access your shares. They'll be put from a trust until the day you do that, will do. So the founder exits. He leaves 3 sons. The younger one being the majority guy and the second born. And so the younger son was very, very oppressive. I think that attitude had been put in him by the founder. He had no respect for his brother. So he misused his position to ban the brother from even coming to the business. Can you imagine? And he's like, I don't want to see you here. He was not allowed to talk to employees. He was not allowed to do anything. So the guy now was an issue. When we lose the issue, the brother decided, in fact, that medical cover you have, return it. All the benefits were taken away. And this guy he could not take it anymore. He went to court. The oppressed brother. He went to court under oppressive conduct. And he filed a court case. And the court agreed with him that you're being oppressed. And the court noted his demeaning attitude. The court noted the brother's attitude. And in the judgment, they wrote, we have noted even how you treat your brother. And the court found for him. And what normally happens in a case of oppressive conduct, the court has the power to remedy that oppressive conduct. And in one last one, where again they are siblings, some are given more shares than others. So the minority sibling was being oppressed. She was not allowed to make any decisions, nothing. You sit down late for December, you're given your dividends, be patient. We don't even want to see you here. So basically what happened, this minority, because of that oppression, and in this case, the older brother was making decisions without involving them. And in some of the cases, they were selling assets even without involving the others. So this one now to court. And she said, she went under oppressive conduct, and again the court found for her. And basically, what we learn from the court is that the court will notice when there's oppressive conduct in the family business. Okay? And oppressive conduct is when, like, one class of shareholders oppress the others. Mostly the majority use their powers to oppress the others. And the court is usually cognizant of that oppression, injustice, and unfairness. So the court can make many decisions. The court is not quick to wind up a business, as was the case of this one I can give you a hint. There's a club somewhere in Nairobi West, Layata Road. Somewhere. I hope you're following me in the story. A club owned by X and Y, but one of them is an Joe. I think you're not getting the case that I'm talking about. So that one also went to court, and they sought to wind up the business. And the Brown judge said, I'm not going to wind it up because it's a profitable business. There are other ways to correct oppressive conduct. So for family-owned businesses, what are our lessons? I think the first lesson that we can obviously learn is the use of wills. Wills. Because let's say the founder has X number of shares. Now then the founder is not there by natural causes. If they don't have a will, their share will go to probate. What means probate is their share will go to succession court. And that is when we found out earlier, we have even a neighbor family and other children we didn't know about. And a child is even older than the real, quote unquote, real children. So that is why when we use a will and say, my X shares in this company, I'm going to give to so-and-so, it becomes very clear. It shields the family business from such issues. In that case of the older brother, the older brother was referring to some family agreements. And was saying that the founder said this, the founder said that, but those are verbal. So when you agree something, please document it. Keep minutes, and as fast as you can, do the document that accompanies that. If it's a share transfer, do the minutes and do the share transfer document. Then it's important to formalize capital contributions. Capital contributions is when family members agree that we are each contributing X amount into the business. Because we find someone saying, I give 1 million, my share should be more, those kind of cases. So it's good to formalize those capital contributions so that there's clarity. Governance documents, we cannot underestimate that. And there's diverse governance documents. For family businesses, we have the family governance documents, and then we have the business documents. So in family businesses, you need to agree on how to govern your business. So for example, you need to agree on employment issues. You need to agree on dividends. You need to agree on exit and so many issues. And there are so many governance policies for families. We have the family constitution. We have the family human resource policy. We have a family resource policy. We have a family dispute resolution policy. All sorts of policies which set the mind of the family in how to govern the business. So when you do that, there's no confusion about disputes that come up, because you have the family business documents. And then, of course, recruiting professional management. I think someone mentioned that. Sometimes when the fight is too hot, it's better to preserve the family business by getting experts from outside. And in none of the cases, they went for the breach of fiduciary duty. The brother who was running the finances was not a finance expert, right? So this is someone who is trained to be an accountant and they're not. And Yolanda, they could have just gotten another person to do it. So those are government's lessons, and our report contains all the we can't present all the cases here, but so many, we're just giving highlights. So our report will have all those cases, all the facts, issues, and so on. My last category is intellectual property. And intellectual property is about, there are many classes, but this one is about trademarks. So we looked at some interesting cases on intellectual property. And one of the cases, a family business that was started many years ago by the founders in the 1920s. And what they used to do is they used to make wine. And after the founders went, two brothers formed a separate business and started making wine. And it became a very big business. What did they do? They trademarked the family name. The family name is Gallo. These people are not here in this room. So they trademarked the family name called Gallo. Now they had a young brother who at the time was not an adult. He is still a child. And the younger brother, when he grew up, they asked him, do you want to join our business? He said, no, I want to do other things. I want to do farming. So he went and did farming, and one of the products he had was cheese. under the name Gallo. So this is one business Gallo owns. The other business, Gallo Cheese. Guess what? The two brothers took him to court and told him, you're infringing our trademark. The Gallo name is ours. And can you imagine your surname is Gallo as well? Interestingly, the court upheld that decision. It upheld the decision that the first person who was given that trademark is the owner of the trademark. So what happens is you've cut out somebody from using the family name, using intellectual property. But the court went into the family dynamics, but still found that way. Second case, and my last case, is a hotel. I don't know which country, but they're called Brennan's. And they had several hotels in whichever country it was. And each hotel was owned by a different family business. Can you imagine how many family businesses? So every hotel, they sign a company, like that. So one of the businesses trademarked a very popular breakfast, which they are calling breakfast at Brennan's. A very popular thing. And the family got into a fight about the shareholding things. So what they decided is to do a share swap. Maybe let's swap shares. So you own these 5 companies 100%. I own this other 5 100%, rather than 50-50 and so on. But the trademark was owned by only one business. And so the ones who did not own the trademark were sued by the others. And it presented a very interesting dynamic on these intellectual property issues. And I think the lesson to family businesses, for me, I think if it's a family name, I think everyone should be entitled to access that family name or that family identity or legacy. So our recommendation is let one family business, maybe the holding company, let it be the one to own the intellectual property, and you can license the others to use, so that you don't lock out generations from using their own family name. And I think for me, that was my bit to do. I've presented to you 3 categories: matrimonial governance and intellectual property. Our report will be available for you in about a month. It's a very fat document where you can get all the other details. And for now, that's it from me. I will invite Davis to take us through property and succession. I took the bigger part of the report, so these ones will just be 5 minutes, and we are done. Davis?